Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Rose podcast. This is Pete.
And I'm Derek.
And we are real brothers talking about video games, mostly Nintendo, but all things video games. How are you doing this week, Derek?
I'm doing good. Enjoying my video games. How about you?
Pretty good. I mean, I haven't had as much gaming time as I liked. I feel like I never do. But, life is good, right? Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Okay, so there hasn't really been a ton of news over the last 2 weeks. So we're going to have some interesting things to talk about today. First of all, let's talk about some current news. As everyone knows, Monster Hunter Rise has come out for the Switch. Came out a few days ago, and it's now sold 4 million over its first weekend, which is pretty good.
That's quite good, I think.
Quite good. It's totally sold out in Japan, but that seems par of the course. 87 on Metacritic, super strong reviews. Some even saying it's the best game on Switch since Breath of the Wild. That's a pretty big statement. I don't know if I agree, but...
I agree, yeah.
Who am I to say? It's opinions, right? And then the other interesting note is that Monster Hunter World sold 5 million in an equivalent time frame on two platforms. Two platforms that... I don't know if they had sold more than... I think they had more PS4s and Xbox Ones out there than Switch. So clearly this is a very popular game. Did you get it?
I did not. Did you?
No, I did not. I gotta say...
good thing we can talk about that.
I know. I mean, it's kind of a funny perspective, right? Because it almost feels like this is the first major Switch release that I'm totally sitting out. What about... I feel like I've been on every other major release I've been there for. So it's kind of like I feel like I'm missing the party. You know what I mean? Like a FOMO.
Yeah, even though Monster Hunter is popular, obviously, by its sales, I don't really have a lot of friends that would play this game, and it's not really the genre that interests me. I have one friend that plays this game hardcore. I think he's already probably beaten the game, to be honest. But, I know what you're saying, missing out, but I don't really feel like I'm missing out on this game because it's not really in my stratosphere of discussion with friends.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm almost the exact opposite, where a huge handful of my friends love this game. I go on the Switch now, and it shows you, what's trending. I don't know if you noticed that. And it's, tons of people are playing this game on my console. So I kind of thought that was interesting. And I mean, I played the demo, and I gotta say, the game seems like it should be appealing to me. You know what I mean? I really like the idea of fighting giant bosses.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially cooperatively. I don't know. I just can't get over the controls. I just can't do it.
I just find when I have tried the demos or played, I don't know, I can't remember Monster Hunter 3 way back when. I found the game just kind of a really repetitive gameplay, and I need a bit more variety, I think.
Well, this new one at least has this wire bug mechanic that kind of lets you explore the environments in a better way. You can climb up mountains. It lets you kind of do these fast dodges, climbing on top of beasts.
Cool.
It does look like it does add to the formula. I don't know. I mean, so you played Monster Hunter 3 or Monster Hunter Tri for Wii?
Oh, I can't remember which one I played, but I played one for maybe I would say 8 hours.
For which? Do you remember which console it was on?
No, I don't remember if it was the Wii or maybe a friend a friend's PS3 or something like that.
Okay, was there? Okay, there was a few Monster.
I really don't remember. It was just I remember playing with Jeff Knight. Remember?
Okay, yeah. So that was probably Tri. I remember I had I bought Tri for Wii, and I didn't know much about it. It just looked cool to me, and I gave it a good shot. You know what I mean? I played a lot of it. I played online multiplayer, and it was fun, but it just felt like the game always kicked my ass, and I guess I'm just not really the type of person who likes to play games that require a large investment and lots of grinding and collecting and reading online.
I don't want to beat the same boss 220 times to get the 30 bones that I need to make the one axe level upgrade. That's not for me.
It's funny because I've seen a few people who are big Monster Hunter fans talk about it, and for them they just know the mechanics so well they don't struggle that way. But for me, I'm someone who would probably need to level up quite a bit before I can take on these bosses, right? I think it's probably the same with the Dark Souls kind of games where some people have to level up their equipment and really progress before they can take on those big bosses, where someone who's maybe a veteran of those games, maybe like yourself, can take on the bosses a lot sooner. Am I right? I mean, I don't play these games very much.
Yeah, I mean, to some degree, like some people just are better at those games than others, and they have more experience. But I think everyone usually dies in those games. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like if you have more experience, you can kind of just fluidly move through the game.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, yeah, people are like that with Monster Hunter. Like again, my friend, I'm betting has probably beaten the game.
Wow. I mean, it does. I don't know. I mean, I got to say, the other night when it came out, I was so tempted to buy it. I was like literally hovering over it on the eShop. And I wanted to buy it just so we could talk about it. But I guess I kind of got this feeling like, no, if I just wait another week or so, like I won't have that feeling like I'm missing out anymore. And it'll just be like a game that I didn't buy. You know what I mean?
That's how I felt about some of the Wii U ports. Like I really wanted to play them again on the Switch, but I just knew if I waited a week, the hype would kind of be like, well, I've already played it. So.
Well, that's funny because I've almost bought every single Wii U port.
I know, yeah.
Just because
I skipped a few.
I just really want those to be in my permanent collection, and I don't have a Wii U anymore. So I just always want to have access to Tropical Freeze and those kind of games. And I don't know, Pikmin 3, and I don't know. I kind of look at Switch like a system that I'm probably never going to sell or get rid of. Like foolishly, I got rid of my GameCube, Super Nintendo, N64, basically everything. So I don't Wii U, yeah. Actually, that one broke. But it's like I think with the Switch, and same with the 3DS. Like I just bought so many games with the 3DS that I know will never be anywhere else that I'm just never gonna sell that thing. Now, side topic: do you think that our games on Switch will carry forward? Like, do you think that there'll be something where we'll have to rebuy these games again, or do you think this is finally it? Like, you have Tropical Freeze, I never need to buy that again.
It's tough to say because, I mean, looking at Nintendo, they've done a lot of, having to rebuy the same digital title over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But they've also done, the DS to 3DS where you could play DS games on it. They've done Game Boy Color to Game Boy Advance. You could play old games on it.
Yeah.
And also, now that we have the Xbox ecosystem that's kind of taken over as you play your games in any of our systems. It's so
elegant. Their backwards compatible approach is so elegant.
Yeah, and even PS4, PS5 backwards compatibility. So I just don't know where Nintendo will lie on that because they've kind of been all over the map. And with the other companies kind of stepping up and saying no, it will be backwards compatible. I'm curious about where Nintendo will go from there. I think they will make, at least when they make a Switch 2 or whatever, not just the Switch Pro that we talked about on last episode, but the actual Switch 2 or like the next generation, they will have backwards compatibility, but I don't know if that will carry it forever.
Well, I mean, when we think about previous console upgrades, I mean, there always seemed to be a major jump. I mean, like from N64 to GameCube, they obviously went to a disc format, and backwards compatibility wasn't really possible. When they went to like Game Boy Advance to DS, I mean, even though there was Game Boy Advance support in the early DS, like it was going to a 2-screen setup, and with the Wii U it went to a 2-screen setup. So it's like now we're kind of back to this non-3D single 16:9 screen setup. Like how are they going to justify us having to buy these games again that are 16:9 non-3D, non-dual screen games? Like
yeah, but if you think about it, every single system that Nintendo brings out is pretty innovative. I mean, so I don't know necessarily that I would say that the next system is going to be, I mean, it's either going to be exactly like the Switch, or it's going to be something so brand new it's not going to follow any of the kind of stuff we've seen so far.
I'm under the impression that we're not going to be they're not going to innovate in such a wild way anymore, and I kind of think that they're realizing how strong having a back catalog of games is. So why make them with weird contraptions that they can't port them in the future? You know what I mean? Where something like Mario Galaxy, even with the Wii controls, is kind of hampering its ability to be ported again and again.
Well, I mean, Skyward Sword is getting ported, and that's even more complicated to port.
True, but it's requiring this extra work, and it's it's a full price release now. They have to retool the controls, so it's not as simple as something like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which is just they can easily
carry over and play,
over forever. And it's like there's no really, I mean, even 100 years from now, there's not really a foreseeable reason why that game won't be playable. I mean, all you need is a 16:9 screen. The only thing I can really see them doing that would like a major revolution or evolution that would require us to maybe repurchase these games is if they went like full VR. If it's like they're like, hey, full VR, now repurchase Breath of the Wild again with like proper VR, and repurchase Odyssey again with proper VR. I just can't see them asking us to buy those games again in 4K or in who knows.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I don't know, but
I just think about like there are games that I bought on the Wii for Virtual Console that I had to buy also on the 3DS that I also would probably have to buy in the Switch. Like, I don't know.
The other thing that kind of carries into that topic is that with our we're kind of like living in a streaming world right now where to buy a cartridge of a game and like own it and have it be special, it's not quite the same as like this world of like masses of content that we have now. Like, people don't go to the store and buy their favorite DVD. They just have a mass of movies on Netflix, and Game Pass is coming into that. So I think it's more like, it's not so much about bringing out new wild hardware to sell new wild games. It's more like, no, we're gonna create this giant ecosystem of exclusives. So I think they'd be really foolish to go back and like start from nothing again. Where with the PS4, like we've seen with the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, like imagine those games didn't have those consoles didn't have backwards compatibility. Like, they would just be nothing,
Yeah, and I was just thinking, you made a good point when you brought that up, and I was thinking about the PS5, and if you own the PS5 and had PS Plus or whatever, you can get like 20 PS4 games for free. And I'm sure Nintendo will do something similar where their next system comes out and say, oh, you get Nintendo Switch Online and the Switch 2 or whatever. Here's 20 games that you can play right now that are like Breath of the Wild, Mario 3D World. That would be awesome.
Yeah, totally. I doubt Nintendo will do that. They'll probably sell them for $79.99 each.
I thought we were arguing about what. Yeah, okay.
I know.
That's the side. Yeah.
I guess my like ending thoughts there is that I don't think there's ever been a better time for being a Nintendo enthusiast or gamer I'm more confident now than I've ever been that the purchases I make will carry forward. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't so confident on the DS or the 3DS. I'm clearly not confident with things like Wii U and N64, but now I do feel confident that there's a chance that the games I buy now I'll have for the next multiple decades.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think it's they've stabilized on what works, if that makes sense. There's more stability where the dual screen, the 3D, whatever. Like, I agree. The touch screens, now they've kind of stabilized in something that can carry forward. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I had another interesting thought. I've been thinking about these kind of backwards compatible things all day, every day, but not really. But I thought it was interesting that during the consoles, like, it seems like nowadays remastering even games that aren't that old is like really popular. And even back on the Super Nintendo, we had like Mario All-Stars, right, which was like basically a collection of NES Mario games. I found it interesting that, when like the N64 came out, when they had not a lot of, like, they were struggling to release games quickly, they didn't just throw some SNES games on a cartridge. You know what I mean? Like, how easily they could have sold, Donkey Kong Country 1, 2, and 3 on an N64 cartridge.
Yeah.
And same thing with the GameCube, same thing with the Wii even. Like, the Wii, they could have they did do it on the Wii, I guess, a little bit. But just interesting that they didn't occur to them back then,
Yeah.
I guess you have no comment there.
No, I'm just thinking about it. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe just like because video games were still somewhat new back then. Even now they're still kind of evolving and changing rapidly. But I think they didn't realize that market was kind of one to tap into. I think they just knew Mario was hot and they were selling it that way. I don't think they realized that every Nintendo franchise could have been that.
Yeah, true. And I also think there was probably a point during the, N64 era where they basically said, 2D is dead. Like, no one wants to play games like this anymore. Where now you look at it and it's kind of, almost half of games are 2D, right? So it's kind of interesting how, I don't think anyone could have predicted how things went. You know what I mean? Like we're playing indie games and all that.
I know, yeah. Indie games have had a huge explosion, and
Uh,
indies like the cool thing about indie games is some of them are being backed by third party developers, like big ones like EA.
mhm.
So we're now seeing indie games that are the A games and the double A games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Indies have almost filled that space for AA games.
Yeah,
I would love to. Have you grabbed any of Nintendo's kind of indie AA game efforts? I think Snipper Clips they published. I know you got
I
that,
have Snipper. Yeah, I have Snipper
which
clips.
was great, by the way.
Yeah, I love Snipper clips. I'd
I
have to know that. I'd have to hear a list of the other ones to know.
There was that one like the stretchers one where it's like two players playing like carrying people on a stretcher.
Yeah,
There
I
was
don't even know that one.
one about like breaking your office. I can't remember. There's one. I think it was called the Good Place or the Place to Work or something. I can't
Oh,
remember.
I have heard. I did see that one. I was. That's one of those games that's like on my radar. Of I would pick it up if it was like those $3 kind of games.
Same. Yeah, I think it's like $25 right now.
Yeah, and I have such a huge backlog. And there's other indie games that I'm waiting to grab first. So
I mean, but I think it's cool that they're doing that, and even something like Cadence of Hyrule, where they let another developer use Zelda for an indie game. I would love to see more.
That one was crazy to me because like even you know having Hyrule Warriors come out was kind of a big deal of like, oh, like they're giving, or Mario and Rabbids, it's like, oh, like they're giving other companies their huge mascots. But, for Crypt of the Necrodancer or the Hyrule Cadence of Hyrule, that's not a big developer. So like they took one of their biggest franchises and gave it to a small developer, which is kind of a huge leap of faith. Because Nintendo runs a pretty tight ship when it comes to what characters have to look like and be like and fit the certain scenario. So I can see them trusting Ubisoft to follow this kind of stuff and be really careful about what they're doing. But they give it to an indie developer. I think that was an eye-opening moment for me when I saw that game. It was like, oh, I didn't think that they would do that.
Well, I think I remember reading that. I think it was like Aonuma and some of the Zelda staff actually like fell in love with playing it. So it they actually liked the game so much, and I think don't quote me on this, but I think it was actually Nintendo that reached out to them and said, "Hey,
Oh,
like,
cool.
would you want to make a version of your game with our property?" But it is interesting because it's like you said, they let Tecmo Koei take Zelda for Hyrule Warriors. It almost goes to show that games aren't about like having these massive development staff and big publishers. It's more about the popularity of the game itself. I mean, even with Minecraft, which was originally developed by a very small team, they had a Mario Minecraft. So it's almost like the popularity of a game is more important than the like size and AAA quality.
Well, I agree. Like if you look at the past 6 months or a year, think about the games that have blown up disgustingly. We have Among Us.
Yep.
We have Fall Guys. We have Valheim. Fortnite, and I think even Loop Hero is the game that's growing or was growing the past couple of weeks. But I just mean these are Valheim again, for example. There's 5 developers, and the game has sold over 5 million copies in a month and a half or 2 months.
Yeah.
So, and again, I played the game. It's not like it's clean graphics. There's no story. It's just a fun game, and it's popular. It's online, and it plays well. So yeah, I agree. It's kind of it's popular. Like I don't know how to explain that either. Like it's kind of it doesn't need that polish to sell. It kind of just needs a good idea.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting, but I mean, it doesn't seem like Nintendo's done much of that since Cadence of Hyrule. I don't believe they've done it.
Yeah, besides Age of Calamity, but that's still a big developer.
Yeah, and that's more somewhat of a AAA release, if you will. But I mean, I guess one of my always hopes is that they would really embrace that kind of like retro style indie developers for some of their lesser known franchises.
Seriously, reach out to Yacht Club Games or the guys that made Shovel Knight, right? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of potential with a lot of developers.
Absolutely, and I mean, even something like a Star Fox doing it as like a 2D shmup and letting like one of the premier shmup developers do that, and I think that'd be super cool. And I mean, an easy win. You know what I mean? Like it's an easy spotlight
for both sides. Yeah,
totally. And I mean, yeah, for both sides. And I don't know why some of these older properties that they seem not to care about, even like F-Zero, for example, that they don't do that. I mean, I'd love to see Shinnen, who made Fast Racing Neo, take on F-Zero. I think that'd be really awesome.
I just think again. I mean, I'm not working at Nintendo, but I think Nintendo runs their ship really tightly. Like, I think they just are very careful with who they lend stuff to. And I agree. I hope they continue in that direction of being a little more loose and open with their IP.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're just really careful. And even the IPs that are dead, like F-Zero or even Star Fox, like, I just don't think that they're... I think they might be worried about, they're lending it to a company and that other companies ask for it. Or they lend it to a company and it sells so well that all of a sudden that company has kind of taken over that IP from them. Even though they still own it, they've kind of shoeboxed into working with that developer, if that makes sense.
I mean, almost like what's happened to Luigi's Mansion with Next Level Games, or
yeah, or even Camelot, right? Well, I guess Camelot's kind of first party. Are they second party?
No, they're third party. I don't know if second party is really a term that's used much anymore.
Okay.
It used to be kind of like Rare was a second party because Nintendo owned like 49% of them and they were exclusive and they were publishing exclusively, but they didn't own them. But I think now it's pretty much like you're either first party, as in owned by the publisher, or you're third party and you just have a tight relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah, Luigi Mansion.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. And like something like even, let's say the classic example is F-Zero GX that was developed with Sega. Like, does Nintendo even have the code to that game anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's something where it's like if they develop it in-house, they can kind of retain the code to the game to re-release and, gouge consumers forever.
Yeah.
Where if they work with a third party, like, I don't know if they can just so easily re-release Hyrule Warriors if Tecmo Koei won't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm going to relate it to examples of like the Sony and Microsoft, but like, for example, Ratchet and Clank, made by Insomniac Games, it's owned by Sony, and Insomniac Games is a third-party studio, and all it needed was for them to, Sunset Overdrive took off, and Microsoft buys them, and then all of a sudden Ratchet and Clank
has to be reinvented by a new developer.
Yeah, exactly, because it's like it was such an attachment to Insomniac Games, right? They've made every single one. They made 7 of them, and they're all great or whatever they were. Mm-hmm. And I also look at the franchise like Halo. Halo switched from Bungie to
343.
And they kind of kept it the same, but people noticed the difference when they changed over.
Let me tell you, I played a lot of Halo, and I have the Master Chief Collection. I tried 5. I don't like it. It feels like a totally different game. It doesn't feel like a Halo to me. And that's, I think, that and Halo 4 were kind of the games that they developed, right?
And then ODST or whatever that one was.
Wasn't that Bungie?
Oh, I can't remember. There was one that I played around. It was like Halo 3, and there was another one that I think there was one that was 343. It was their first one. You can look.
Yeah, and so can our listeners. But yeah, you're right. And it's kind of a tricky position to put them in. And I think Nintendo would always rather work in-house than. Well, who knows, right? I mean,
I just mean, like, all again, back to that Star Fox example. If they make it a shoot 'em up, and sure, it sells well and everyone's happy, but the problem is, what if eventually Nintendo wants Star Fox back? Right, and now it already had 8 shoot 'em up games, and now it's hard to get back from.
Well, it's not like
I don't know.
They still own the IP.
I know they own it. I don't mean get back as far as ownership. I mean get back as far as like, it's hard to once a franchise has become kind of ingrained in something, especially ingrained with a developer. I don't know. I think Nintendo is just worried about those things. Not that it necessarily should be a worry. But I just know they're very careful with what they do with their IP.
Totally. I mean, a classic example is, with Donkey Kong Country, originally developed by Rare, and then they kind of made 64, which was, sold well, but had mixed impressions. But then Rare left, so it was kind of like they went and made Donkey Kong with Namco. They did Donkey Konga, and then they went King of Swing for Game Boy Advance, and then they made Jungle Beat with EAD Tokyo, and like. It was like they had to shuffle around this franchise for so long until now Retro comes and brings back Country. So you're right, there was like a good decade there where they really didn't know what to do with this franchise, and it arguably lost a lot of popularity in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an interesting thought. And the other thing I think they're protective about is, not to misrepresent their brand. Like, there's a story that... in the original Mario Strikers Charge, developed by Next Level Games in Vancouver, they kind of added this extreme, like, badassness to the Mario Kingdom and the Mario characters. And Waluigi was kind of doing like the suck it simp pose, and Peach had booty shorts, and it was kind of an edgy version of Mario. And apparently it was after that game that Nintendo said no more. Like we got to kind of reel in what people can do with Mario, because we want this franchise, our strongest franchise, to last for hundreds of years. It's their fallback. So
yeah.
And I mean, since that game on GameCube, we have seen series like Paper Mario be much more like homogenized. Like there hasn't been as many interesting characters, and it's like mostly Toads now. So it's good and bad, right? So
I think they're playing it safe, but it almost like, I don't want to worry, or they shouldn't worry about playing it too safe. If that makes sense.
Totally. And this kind of leads on to the next major topic of discussion I want to talk about on this podcast, was that it has to do with Nintendo's like big side franchise releases. And it's kind of like right now I kind of made like a tier list of like what Nintendo's franchise, like an A tier, B tier, and I mean arguably they've released almost all the A tier and B tier franchises so far. So I wanted to talk to you about like what their next kind of, what other side franchises that people love do you think they'll bring back? But before that, I kind of wanted to touch on with the Switch, like how we always get a Mario Kart, we always get a 3D Mario and a Zelda, but there's kind of these smaller tiers. You know what? Do you want me to just kind of go through my tier list and you can tell me if you agree?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so this is the A tier. Like these are the number one games. So the A tier, I have Smash Bros, Mario Adventure games, which is 2D, 3D Mario Kart, Zelda, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Splatoon, Mario Party, and I added, Luigi's Mansion to the A tier now, because it's a 10 million selling franchises, and I also added fitness games, like Wii Fit and Ring Fit Adventure, because those are big sellers now, too. So, like...
What about Kirby or Fire Emblem?
Well, those are on B tier, because those games usually sell around they sell usually under 5 million.
I didn't know that. I'm surprised that the fitness games and Mario Party sell better than Kirby and Fire Emblem.
Well, Super Mario Party is now like 13 million units.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, and Luigi's Mansion's nearly at 10, and Ring Fit Adventure is nearly at 8. And we all know Wii Fit sold like 20 million. So the B tier, I have Fire Emblem, Kirby, Paper Mario, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Donkey Kong, Clubhouse Games, Xenoblade, and Yoshi. C tier, I have Metroid, Pikmin, and Wario/WarioWare. D tier, I have Kid Icarus, F-Zero, Punch-Out, and Star Fox. And then for F tier, games we might arguably never see again, are Advance Wars, Golden Sun, Earthbound, Custom Robo, Excitebike, Wave Race, 1080 Snowboarding, Pushmo, and Elite Beat Agents. And I think I'm missing a Custom Robo I got on there. Probably missing a few.
Sin and Punishment.
Sin and Punishment is probably on F tier as well. And by the way, these don't reflect on quality. These more reflect on sales and like kind of their initiative. Now, I think it's interesting that all the A tier games have kind of come to Switch. All the B tier games have come to Switch. But it almost seems like none of these kind of smaller, more offshoot franchises have, like the C tier, D tier, and F tier.
Well, some are coming. Like I think you said Metroid was a C tier to your list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, but I think kind of what happened is they needed to have the Switch be successful after the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
So they released all these A tier and B tier games, and they sold disgustingly well. And I think they're just going to say, well, they sell disgustingly well. We'd rather just make the 20 million selling games or 15 million selling games than put the same amount of effort and get a 2 million selling game. True,
and I mean, but there is things like Kirby, which is arguably like a smaller development cost, right? To make a 2D Kirby and have it sell, 2-3 million is probably worth it. To make a big 3D Metroid or Pikmin or Star Fox might not be worth it to only sell 2 or 3 million.
Yeah.
But still, I think I did kind of say here, like, has Nintendo actually released any of these, long sought after series on the Switch? And I kind of came to the conclusion that yes, I think Luigi's Mansion 3 at one point was kind of a B or C tier, and only with the third one now with the major sales did I say no, it's an A tier. We're probably going to see Luigi's Mansion 4 on the next console. And also, in a weird way, Pokemon Snap because even though Pokemon, which is a major A tier franchise, the Pokemon Snap spin-off is kind of a surprise. So it's kind of like one of those things
Yeah.
people have asked for forever. Probably will only sell, who knows on Switch, but
Oh, I think it's going to sell disgustingly well on the Switch.
yeah, you think it'll do 10 million plus, or?
Honestly, I do.
I mean, it looks great. I'm gonna buy it.
I mean, it's like the first chance. Like people love social stuff with, especially with Pokemon, so picture sharing, and it's the first time really that they have HD Pokemon. Like I mean, I know there's some in Sword and Shield, but it just does not look the same as like the quality in Pokemon Snap is phenomenal.
You're right. I do wonder if Pokemon Snap will become like a mainstay. You know what I mean? Like it sells super well, and they decide, okay, well, let's make Pokemon Snap, 2 and 3, and
Hey, I got mine pre-ordered.
oh yeah. I mean, I'm gonna buy it for sure. I think it looks great. It looks like a lot of fun. There's way more depth than anyone could have thought.
Yeah, I agree.
But back to these lists. So if we look at something like the B tier lists, because we know they've kind of nailed all the A tier, we have had a Fire Emblem, we have had a Kirby, we have had a Paper Mario, Tennis we've had, Mario Golf is coming, Clubhouse Games, Xenoblade and Yoshi we've had, Donkey Kong. Do you think we'll see a Donkey Kong on Switch, like another one?
You know, the problem is that Nintendo, they don't really want to expand the number of teams that they have, I find. So, I mean, I guess they could give it out to someone else, but again, I think Nintendo's kind of riding this crazy success they're getting after the Wii U, and they're just going to play it really, really safe and just keep giving the big hitters out. Because they know they could do a Zelda every year if they had the quality and of putting one out every year, and people would buy that rather than having anything different. Same with Mario. Like they could make a crappy Mario, a 2D crappy Mario, and it would sell way more than putting in tons of effort into something else.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they ever think about it in terms of effort. I think they think of it in terms of development staff and dollars. But
Well, sorry, that's what I mean when I think of effort. I mean like manpower.
I mean, at the same time, something like Luigi's Mansion, they probably thought, okay, like let's let Next Level Games do it. It'll be successful, maybe not massively, and then it turned into this massive success, and it's now cemented as a mainstay franchise. Like same with Animal Crossing to some extent. So like, it's almost do they not want to bring some of these B tier to the A tier?
No, I agree. I think a lot of people are kind of saying, we want the B tier and C tier games, and if you put them on the Switch, I guarantee they'd sell better than any time they've been on any other console.
Mm-hmm.
But I think again, Nintendo is just unsure if that's the case, and I think Nintendo's just playing safe. Honestly, they're a safe company. They've always been a safe company, and I think they're just not really willing to say when they're selling again 20 million for one franchise. And I'm sure again, if they brought out, I'm gonna make it up, like let's say Kid Icarus, I'm sure Kid Icarus would sell crazy well on the Switch if they made a new Kid Icarus.
I don't know about crazy well, but it would probably sell well.
I think it would sell better than the Kid Icarus game on the 3DS.
Yes, probably. I mean, it wouldn't have as bad of controls.
So let me rephrase that. I think it'll be like anything they put on the Switch will be the best selling of its franchise. I mean, as far as those D and F tier games, but I don't think they necessarily want to play that gamble because they're unsure. Even though I think as a consumer, I'm pretty sure that's what would happen. I don't know if Nintendo would want to gamble their money on it.
It's funny, that's almost universally true with every single thing they've released on the Switch. Like even Smash Bros. Ultimate will be the best-selling Smash Bros. Mario Kart will end up outselling the Wii version. The only time that's not true, do you know what game it is?
Mario Odyssey.
No, because I think Mario Odyssey's already blown way past the highest selling 3D Mario. Because it's like,
okay.
Yeah, it's actually 2D Mario. Like New Super Mario Bros. And Mario Maker are nowhere close to, even combined, are nowhere close to what New Super Mario Bros. Did on the DS and Wii. Like that's the only one that really.
But that's because they haven't really made a 2D Mario for the Switch.
You're right. I guess they are more or less it's a remaster.
Like I bet you if they made a brand new 2D Mario for the Switch and actually didn't have a stupid name like New Something Super Deluxe X, like something stupid.
And they actually made a more than one song in the game.
Like they actually put the effort into it. I guarantee you it would be the best selling 2D Mario. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I didn't even buy New Super Mario Bros. U for Switch.
I didn't buy it for the Switch or the Wii U.
Oh, I bought it for the Wii U. I mean, it's not a bad game, but it is just, yeah, it's the epitome of low effort, I guess. I mean,
I think it's the epitome of bottom of the barrel of ideas almost. Like I think they kind of phoned it in, like there's nothing really pushing the boundaries. And you look at, some of the other 2D platform games that are coming out, especially even indies, like they just have more creative ideas.
true, but I mean, I can't deny there is a very strong competency to the new Super Mario Bros. Games and how they're made, and they feel good to play, and
they're well crafted, they're tight. I agree.
They don't crash. There's no weird hit detection. Like they are tight. I just think it was the fourth one of these new Super Mario Bros. Games.
Yeah,
and people were just tired of it.
Yeah, fatigue. Yeah,
but I mean, I can actually see that happening. Like I can really see them announcing a 2D Mario Bros. Even as soon as for this year. Like maybe we didn't talk about it last week about the huge sales expectations Nintendo has this year, but maybe a 2D Mario Bros. Game is that game.
Yeah, it could be, honestly. I mean, we know, again, we talked in one of our podcasts about that extra 25 million or 20% in sales.
Yeah, 250 million.
A crazy new 2D Mario that maybe they just know it's going to be. Maybe, they internally tested it and they said, wow, this is like the best 2D Mario we've ever played. Mm-hmm. You just never know, right?
Yeah, and I'm under you mentioned that Nintendo, they're very conservative. I mean, they did buy Next Level Games, and they're going to increase their staff. They have Monolith Soft, the developer behind Xenoblade, has grown hugely over this generation. Like they might they're going to have a big game, whatever their next game is. Even Retro, I know they went through some issues, but Retro Studios has a lot of new hires there, like from AAA developers. So I think Nintendo's more interested in growing their in-house teams, but where we might expect this growth to lead to, like, some of these C and D tier games coming back, I think it's more so like, no, Nintendo would rather grow their internal developers so that the next Zelda can be that much bigger, and the next Mario can be that much greater, and the next Xenoblade can be that much bigger. But I don't think it's going to result in more games. I think it's just going to result in their big A tier games being bigger and better and faster and more polished.
I totally agree. I think now that they're in the the HD era, they're realizing how much more manpower and how much more work it is to get those polished HD games out there that are the same size and quality. Mm-hmm. So I agree. I think they're growing to make sure they can keep up with the standards of what consumers want and what they're compared to, as opposed to getting more products out.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're in kind of a funny position because I think they're about to get a lot of strong third-party support. And it's like the Japanese developers have been giving them more and more third-party support. And I mean, they're just kind of sitting pretty.
And the indie support, right? They're just getting crazy indie support.
And it's funny, a lot of people will say, like, why aren't they developing a Pikmin? And why aren't they developing a Kid Icarus? And as much as we want that, it's not like their developers are just sitting around chewing gum. They're working on stuff. So it's really just like, what they're choosing to work on. And I'm sure if they could just snap their fingers and make every game they wanted to, they would. But it really comes down to it, like, do they want to make a new 3D Donkey Kong game and put this massive budget and advertising budget like they would for Odyssey when they're not sure that it'll sell the 20 million copies that Odyssey will,
Yeah, and like, I mean, a kind of a clear-cut example for listeners would be, if they announced, again, let's say Donkey Kong, and they didn't announce Breath of the Wild 2, would that make you happier or not? And I'm sure some listeners would say, oh, that would, but a lot of listeners would say, no, I'd rather take Breath of the Wild 2.
Well, I think at that token, though, we always know that Nintendo's going to make a new Zelda and a new Mario.
I know what I'm saying. I thought we were just talking about, the idea of developers have to be doing something.
True, yes.
So if they're doing something, that means they're not doing one of those big games.
But I guess, but to that same token, it's like right now, I don't know if we'll ever get another 3D Donkey Kong. I know we'll get another 3D Mario and another 3D Zelda. Like, even if they don't announce it, it'd be almost short-sighted to be like, oh, they announced the Donkey Kong? Why isn't it this? But I guess that did happen in 2013 when they announced Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. And everyone said, why isn't it Metroid? Like we're assuming we're assuming how the opportunity cost works behind the scenes with these developers. But I also think, on a side topic, I think with the success of Switch, I really do believe that Nintendo won't let another console come out without a big AAA Zelda / Mario again. I mean, the power...
Yeah, like the 1-2.
The 1-2 punch was huge for Switch. Even Splatoon was in Mario Kart that first year. And I really think, if we're going to get Splatoon 3 and Breath of the Wild 2 and another Mario 3D Mario, I think it's gonna be the Switch Pro that they push with alongside it. So I think they've seen that as well. But okay, let's go down to the list here. So we've got the C tier list. We've got Metroid, Pikmin, and Wario/WarioWare. I kind of made this C tier because these are games that usually sell pretty decently, and the quality is usually pretty high. We know we have Metroid Prime 4 on the way. Do you think we'll get a Pikmin or a Wario/WarioWare game on Switch?
I think, honestly, I think we'll get both a Pikmin 4 and a WarioWare on Switch.
Do you think it'll be WarioWare or like a Wario Land, like a 2D LARP?
I think it'll be I think a WarioWare is guaranteed. I think a Wario Land could happen.
Yeah, I think if we get a Wario Land, it'll almost be like that. Maybe a side developer, like a Grezzo,
Yeah,
or someone.
I agree.
Kind of like the Wario Land Shake It.
I just couldn't imagine them. I would be shocked if they didn't put a WarioWare on the Switch. I think, or the Switch Pro. Like, I think that's just like, if you look at the party games that have sold, you look at how the Switch worked with the Joy-Cons. I just can't imagine them not making a WarioWare. Like, you could play one-player games with two Joy-Cons and do all these crazy things with two different Joy-Cons juggling or whatever. Or you could do two-player games, four-player games. You know, I don't know. There's so many ideas for the WarioWare.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it'd be a massively missed opportunity to not release a WarioWare on Switch.
Exactly.
And I actually really want one because, you know, like you said, it's the one time I probably would detach my Joy-Cons and play with them in multiplayer. And it's the kind of game that anyone can pick up and play, and it's probably not too costly to develop.
Yeah, you take the 150 games they already have.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the mini games, like, just use them again and then add another 100 or whatever.
I'm not so sure we're going to get another Pikmin on Switch, like a Pikmin 4. I'm not so sure that's coming.
I'm not sure. I just know Miyamoto himself has said we've been working on Pikmin 4, and I know that could have been years ago and nothing since.
I think that was Hey You Pikmin.
No, because there was an interview where he said it wasn't Hey You Pikmin.
But I mean, he said it was nearly finished so long ago. It's like not even feasible to believe that. You know, it's almost like unfeasible to think that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's done and they're just waiting. Like, you know.
Maybe. I mean, you never know with that one. I really hope we get a 4, but I mean, with 3 the funny thing is, Pikmin 3 Deluxe is now the best-selling Pikmin game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I really wish they just would make more of their different IPs. Because again, like I think once they realize, all of our IPs are the number one selling on the Switch. The Switch is selling our IPs, not the IPs selling themselves.
Yeah, but I mean, like we've talked about, we are kind of in an era now where it's like either your game is a massive AAA tentpole release, or it's like an indie game. So to have, like, where on the GameCube a game like Pikmin made sense and it wasn't super costly, to make a new Pikmin that's of the AAA standard we would expect would be costly, and I don't know if 2 or 3 million in sales would justify that. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, if I think about Pikmin 2, like, if they made a Pikmin the same quality as Pikmin 2, I think that would be worth it.
But the thing is, with Pikmin 2, that's on a standard definition system. You know what I mean? Like,
I know there's a lot more to it. I agree. I'm just saying.
It's just like, yeah, the HD development costs are so much higher.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like, you could do it in a smaller scope. I mean, who knows? What do you think about...
Well, who knows about Metroid, right? Metroid Prime 4 is coming, and I expect that to be AAA level, and that game is not going to sell that well.
I think it actually will. I think...
I think it will too, but I think it'll be the best selling ever. But I'm saying the expectation is that it's going to be in line with the other three, which aren't that good selling of games.
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting one because it's like one of those franchises where we've had now, 20 years since the first Metroid Prime? So it's like there's been this kind of like legacy to it that's kind of enshrined these games in legacy. Where at the time they came out on GameCube, you know, it was a purple system. No one really wanted it. The Wii wasn't really the right system for it. It's just like Metroid hasn't really had a chance to be what we want. You know what I mean? To be that AAA shooter on a modern system that everyone has. So
yeah, but you could say that about so many of the franchises that are dead. Like, where is the F-Zero? That's a legacy franchise that should come back. And I think of how good a racing game would be on a Switch, at portable, or Star Fox.
But even F-Zero sold an absolute fraction that Metroid Prime did, and also it's just like reviews weren't as strong for that game as you might think. You know,
I didn't know that.
So I don't know. I mean, but in terms of Metroid, like, do you think we'll get a 2D Metroid on Switch? We've talked about this a lot because I do. I think
I agree with you. I think the same guys that made Metroid Returns.
Yep, it's, Mercury Steam.
But I hope they spend a lot more time. I think maybe they're spending a lot more time in making it. You know, they have to make it HD, and they have to make a brand new Metroid. And again, with Nintendo, runs a very tight ship. I'm sure they're having to double check a lot and making sure it's up to the standard that Nintendo wants for that franchise.
Totally.
So I think it's in development. I just don't know how long it's going to take to come out. Like, I could see it coming out in 2023 at the end of this kind of the Switch life.
I think whenever the 2D Metroid does come out, it'll be a very short window from announcement to release, just like Samus Returns was. So because it seemed like at the point Samus Returns was announced, it was like practically done and tested. You know what I mean? And they released it 3 months later in September.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows, right? Let's move down the list to the D tier lists. So we've got Kid Icarus, F-Zero, Punch-Out, and Star Fox. Like, which one of these do you see coming for the Switch?
None of them. I think maybe you might get a Star Fox, and you might get like the port or the like Nintendo Online service for some of the other games. But as far as a new game, I think maybe Star Fox. Maybe.
I agree. I think Star Fox has the highest chance. I don't know if Nintendo will do it internally. I think it'll be maybe another one of those partnerships with another developer.
They should just get the guys that did whatever that game was.
Sin and Punishment? Damon X Machina?
Yeah.
I mean, that game didn't really sell well or was not very well received.
Yeah, but again, I don't have a lot of faith in the company that made Metroid Returns, but I think I have a lot of faith in Nintendo running a tight ship to make sure those games are good.
True. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Star Fox is a funny one. I actually think that Punch-Out also has somewhat of a chance because that's one of those games that's widely known. It
works well with the Joy-Cons, yeah.
It can work with the Joy-Cons. It's something that Next Level Games, who now is owned by Nintendo, they made the last one for Wii. And it's not something that requires a massive budget or scope. You know, it's not like you're developing a giant world. You know, it's pretty basic. And I can see that happening from Next Level Games. The only problem with Punch-Out is it's a little bit problematic with some of the characters and their stereotypes and things like that.
Yeah.
There was a really cool idea. I just want to share it. I listened to I think it was the podcast with, it was Game Explain when some of the members who have now quit were talking, and it was John, the British guy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay, anyways, this guy John, he's now on Nintendo Life. He's got a British accent. His predictions are amazing, and he's landed these amazing predictions. But he had this idea for a Punch-Out game that was called Punch-Out Rings of Saturn, where you basically just fight aliens, and it kind of gets away from all the problematic issues of fighting, like, you know, stereotypical Italians and stuff. But anyways, I thought that would be cool. Now let's move down to the F tier. So this is a bit bigger list here. So we've got Advance Wars.
This is like the wish list. Okay.
This is a wish list. So we've got Advance Wars, Golden Sun, Earthbound, Custom Robo, Excite Bike, Wave Race, 1080 Snowboarding, Pushmo, and Elite Beat Agents. Now I want to hear which one do you think has the highest chance, and which one do you want the most?
I think the highest chance is Advanced Wars or Wave Race.
Interesting. Okay. I think the highest chance is Pushmo because it's so.
I don't know Pushmo. I don't even know that. Like,
so,
I know it's a franchise. I just don't know enough.
Pushmo
about it
was just an indie game on the 3DS that was like a puzzle game that was really fun, and they released a sequel, and then they released Pushmo World on the Wii U. So it's just one of those games I can see them just being like, yeah, Pushmo's now in the eShop. You know, like very unexciting, but it is a great puzzle game, I gotta say. But I also agree that Wave Race would be the other one because I believe that one of the developers at Nintendo said he wanted to make another Wave Race. I don't know though. I mean, I can also see them saying Wave Race. Why don't you just make another Wii Sports and put a jet ski thing in there?
Yeah.
I'm surprised you said Advance Wars though.
I said Advance Wars because that game that came out, I want to look at the developer, but that made Wargroove, the indie game.
You think they'd really give it to them?
I mean, I think they would. I really think they would. Wargroove got an 84 on Metacritic. I'm checking right now. Developer was Chucklefish, which is a pretty known developer.
Did you play Wargroove?
I haven't, but it's on the top of my list of to download.
Okay, I mean, it seemed really cool. I just
yeah. I just don't like. Again, they have a good relationship with that developer. Chucklefish is like reliable too. They made Stardew Valley, which sold really, really well on the Switch.
I mean, but are we just in dream mode here to be like, oh yeah, like in Team Cherry we'll do a 2D Metroid? Like, it's just...
in reality, I don't think anything below the C tier will come out. But I mean, we're talking about possibilities.
You got to remember with some of these indie developers too. It's like, it's 10 guys working in a small space, and they're literally like Wargroove probably was like their 8-year long project. Like they're not just like a Ubisoft that can pump out the next game. So for them to now, it's not only is it a high risk to be like, hey, indie developer, that might just disappear one day and leak it and all this, that, and the other thing. It almost seems like a high risk to work with a developer that small.
I'm going to counter that. So again, Chucklefish has made a lot of games. They're a reliable indie developer.
Okay.
And if in reality, if they can make Cadence of Hyrule, if one developer can make Cadence of Hyrule, I can't imagine how the Wargroove developers can't make Advance Wars.
I mean, I think that'd be awesome.
Like make it the same quality. Like I'm looking at images, like it's a really nice looking game. Just change all the assets to Advance Wars themed, and change some of the rule sets and do that.
Yep. Now, is that the one you want to come back to the most?
Oh no, of course not. No.
Which one of these F tier would you want to see?
Golden Sun, no doubt.
Golden Sun, okay. I think for me, I really want to see them come back, bring Earthbound back.
I never played an Earthbound yet, so
I don't. I almost think it never will, just because the guy who, like the head designer on them, it's kind of like his baby, and I don't think he really wants to make any more. But I just think that like visual style is really cool, and that's setting is really cool. Like I played the first Earthbound, and just like Ness and like kind of this weird kind of like it's not like other RPGs that kind of fall into sci-fi and fantasy and like heavy themes. It was kind of like almost like an Undertale. Like it had silliness. It was a bunch of kids on an adventure. I just think it's the right kind of branding that works for Nintendo's audience, and I think they really could bring that back in a big way and kind of reinvent what an RPG could be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because right now we really are living in a time when RPGs are these big, heavy experiences, unless you're playing indies. And I think that Earthbound's always been this opportunity. They were in development on Earthbound 64 was canceled. People always ask about it. Ness is obviously in Smash Bros. I don't know. I can see it happening.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of something like Wave Race or 1080, which I'd be excited about, I don't know. I don't know if Nintendo has the developer to do that. And those games, to me, at least with Wave Race, always seem kind of like a graphical tech showpiece for their new hardware. I don't know if Nintendo's really in that race anymore. To me, part of the exciting thing about Wave Race was that it was like bleeding edge technology.
Yeah, it looked awesome. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be on the Switch Pro. I don't know. I don't know if these franchises.
Again, I think these are all pipe dreams, but
same. I think this F tier list is almost dead for good, and I think if there's any hope, it's this D tier list. It's hoping we get a Star Fox. I think me even putting F-Zero on the D tier list and not the F tier list is a pipe dream.
Yeah, yeah.
But who knows? People always ask about F-Zero. I mean, who knows? Okay, well, interesting talk. So I guess finally, like the last, what do you think out of all these kind of like lower tiered games? Like, what do you think on Switch will be? I mean, I do think there'll be some surprise of like a long dead franchise coming back. Do you agree? Like, do you think there'll be one of these surprises will come, or do you think just no, it'll just be part of the course, A tier?
I think you might see another C tier or D tier, maybe. Yeah.
what do you think that? I mean, I think the highest hope we have is basically is either a Star Fox or a Pikmin 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say Pikmin 4.
Like, yeah, I don't think any of these other have a chance. I think Wario and Metroid are almost surefire. I mean, we already it's
The only other thing I could see, and again, this is a total pipe dream, but what I think I guess more I would like to see is Square Enix working with Camelot and making a Golden Sun, but doing the 2D sprite kind of golden that they've done for Octopath and now this Project Triangle.
That'd be cool. I don't know if I see that happening.
I don't either. It's a pipe dream, but I think that's the only chance it has.
My understanding is that a lot of staff have left Camelot to form Brownie Brown way back. So like a lot of their RPG development staff isn't there anymore.
You know what? Even I wish they made another Paper Mario game that was. I know they're making Paper Mario, but like that franchise to me has completely changed too. Like Mario Luigi and Paper Mario kind of combined, and then they kind of it's not an RPG anymore. I wish they still had a Mario RPG franchise.
I know, and I was quite disappointed by the last Paper Mario because it was like everything was so good about it except for that battle system and except for the mechanics. You know what I mean? Like
I know, and it's like it's not that hard to make an RPG. Like the Paper Mario RPG battle system is not that complicated. It's like simple numbers, small numbers.
It's got to be
not a lot of.
What's happened in Paper Mario has to be one of the most frustrating things in all of gaming because they're now like 5 games deep where they have not made it a traditional RPG. That's all everybody wants. They keep finding some way to ruin it, and I know a lot.
It's like they add one system that's like a game system that just like doesn't work.
Yeah,
right. Whether it's the card system or the sticker system
or the rotating battles.
Yeah, it's like, oh my
just
god,
don't. You know what
I
mean?
Just make a game.
At the same time, I do think people look at the Paper Mario series with a little bit of rose-tinted glasses because I didn't really like Thousand Year Door that much either. And I found Paper Mario 64 was great, probably because I was so young, but it was very, very basic. Like, your HP only went up to 30.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I like about it.
I don't know. I would like to see something more mature, like a Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, like that approach to Mario RPG, where...
Oh, that'd be cool, too. I mean, get Square Enix on board.
Yeah, I guess my only point is that I don't think Paper Mario's ever really been like a 10 out of 10 series. I think it's always been kind of a...
I think it's been a 10 out of 10, but I think it used to be an 8 out of 10, and now it's a 4. Now it's a 4 out of 10.
Well, I mean, some people really like the new Paper Marios.
Yeah, and I know there's so much quality in certain aspects, but for me, gameplay trumps all, and the gameplay looks like garbage to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's really too bad. I mean, I want to keep insulting Paper Mario here, but I bought Origami King because it was the last one of my what was it, the deal Nintendo had, the vouchers. Yeah, so I used my last voucher on it because it was my last chance, and it's like I played a good 5 to 10 hours of it, and I really loved it. The music's great, the story's fun, like all the gameplay's great, but the battle system just grated on me so hard. I just hated getting into battles that I stopped. Like I gave up. And Last of Us 2 came out, so that was a big one to stop me. But yeah, really disappointing. But I mean, there was another pipe dream is that Square Enix teams up with Nintendo and Ubisoft, which will never happen, to make a remake of Super Mario RPG in the style of Mario Rabbids Battle Kingdom.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool. Never happening.
No, yeah, of course not. But.
Okay, so last thing for today. What have you been playing? Let's talk about our recently played.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, so I've been playing kind of the same old that I've mentioned the last few episodes, but the new game that I've been playing is It Takes Two by Hazelight and EA, and it is phenomenal.
Who you playing with? Sarah, right?
Yeah, my girlfriend. Yeah. It is
phenomenal. You said phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's a Game of the Year contender. I'm not kidding. I think it's easily a 9 or higher. I think it's probably the best co-op game of all time, and I think it's one of the best platform games of all time.
And so, I got a couple questions because I might.
I can't even say a platform game. It's not a platform game. It's beyond that. It's such a good game.
Okay, I think I need to buy it. But just a quick question. I saw a few preview videos, and it looks like it has kind of like a dual analog control scheme, like where like the right analog controls the camera, left analog controls movement.
Not always, but yes.
That's a big barrier for a lot of people.
I agree. My girlfriend had never done that before. Sometimes, like for some double jumps or a jump, you had to make one jump and then turn to the right and make another jump. It took her a try or two. Or sometimes you had to jump and latch onto something. It took her a try or two. She got the hang of it. And I know some people are not as smart or skillful as my girlfriend, so they might struggle more. So if you have a friend you can play with, go for it. Go for it. But I don't think the skill level is not that high.
Okay.
And the other thing is, if one person dies, the respawn is instant, and you don't have to go back to a checkpoint unless both players die. So as long as you're competent enough to stay alive, you don't really ever have to restart anything. And even if you do, the restart's like 5 seconds earlier.
And I take it you never really need like the dexterity you'd need in another like first-person shooter dual analog. It's pretty basic. It's more puzzly.
I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's nothing that's really tight or precision. It's like
okay, and it's
again,
online, right? There's online play.
It's free online, so if you have a copy, you can play with your friend for free.
And last question, what's the price of it?
It's in Canadian, it's 55, I think. It's worth it.
I mean, that is expensive.
I'm not kidding. It's worth it.
I know. I mean, that's a very...
No, Peter, like this game is like you're gonna, especially you, Peter. That you will smile from this game from the first 10 minutes.
I'm gonna buy it. I'm buying it tonight.
It's so good.
I'm gonna buy it tonight.
I played last week. Like Sarah and I played for maybe 4 hours straight. She loved every second of it. So did I. We played today, and it was so good. It was completely different. If you think Mario or any other game throws out idea after idea, like I remember you saying that about Bowser's Fury, just different ideas thrown together. Mm-hmm. This game is that on steroids. I couldn't tell you what the genre of this game, because like I saw this post, it was a joke, and someone said, yeah, so what genre should we put in this game? And the guy replies, yes.
I love when people say that. Okay.
I know, but like,
okay, say no more. I'm gonna buy it tonight. Okay, I can spare it.
And if you find out that you don't have anyone to play with, I'll play with you after I finish the game with Sarah.
But can we do a crossplay?
It's PS4, PS5 crossplay, and I accidentally have.
Can I play Xbox Series X with your PS5?
No, it's not cross-platform. Sorry,
okay, well, whatever. It's fine. I don't really like playing online that much, to be honest. I'm more of a local player.
And just invite one of your friends over, honestly, if that's really the situation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's so good. It's that
good. It sounds great.
So what have you been playing?
Well, funny enough, I'm still playing Crash Bandicoot 4. I'm getting pretty far in that.
Oh, nice.
It's good, but I like it. I mean, it's hard. The thing I like about it is it's hard. It does throw a lot of ideas at you in a way that I want to say is almost a bit annoying, you know? Like there's this one item that you get that lets you kind of like almost switch between blocks that are on and off, you know? Like, so it'll be like a platform's invisible and another platform's there, and then you swap them with this button. And it's like every level... Not every level, but they constantly bring this idea back, and it's just like it just adds like a challenge, but it's not really that exciting when you see it for the 5th, 6th time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's interesting because I jump between Crash Bandicoot 4 and 3D World, and like it's just like a night and day difference between the way it controls and the way it feels. But I gotta say, Crash Bandicoot 4 is still a really fun game. It's a very solid platformer. I haven't beat it yet, so we'll see where it goes, but it's just got really fun like themed levels, and it's a good. If you ever see it on sale, like it's a good one, you know.
Okay.
But the other thing, you know, the other night, I was hovering around the eShop over Monster Hunter Rise, and
as you do every day,
and then I saw this game called Bee Simulator was on sale, 70% off, and it was like it's an open world game where you play as a bee. So I think
I've seen the gameplay of this.
It has about a 40% on Steam. Or it's Metacritic. But anyways, I didn't know that till after I bought it. But I bought it. It was $10. And it is actually one of the dumbest and funnest games I've played in a while. I mean, because, you know, I'm not expecting a big AAA experience, but it's so ridiculous because you're basically a bee that can talk, and you kind of just have to go around and collect pollen, and you can kind of fly around like, you know, get in people's faces and they'll swat at you. But it's just interesting to kind of play an open world game where you are so small, you know. I don't think any other game quite gives you that experience where you can kind of fly right up to a dog and like look in its mouth, and then you can fly up in the sky and fly around trees, and it's like a different approach to an open world game. So kind of for just like a dumb, fun $10 mindless game, I can't help but recommend it. It's fully voice acted.
That's a cool game. I never in my life would play that game, but that sounds cool.
I mean, it was on sale. I mean, I couldn't believe the actual price of it, which was like, it was like $70. And I was like, if I'd paid $70 for this, I'd be pissed. But the fact that it's like only $10, it's fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Any other topics to look forward to?
That's it for this week, I think, for me.
I mean, hopefully next time there's some news and some hot Nintendo news. So, to our listeners, if you listen to the end of that, please leave us a comment. Let us know you're there.
all 10 of you.
All one of you. We're growing. We got another subscriber last week. So.
Oh, nice.
Who knows who that is? But yeah, leave us a comment. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll answer them next week. Or in 2 weeks. We're a bi-weekly podcast. Okay, Derek. Well, I guess that wraps it up for tonight.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good one.
All right, have a good one. Cheers.
Bye.